Our team advises charities on everything from establishment, compliance, regulation, reorganisation, mergers, to wind down, and everything that comes between in the lifetime of a charity. We have designated lawyers in departments throughout Mason, Hayes and Curran to whom we send specific queries to. So for instance, if we get a query in relation to real estate or in relation to employment, data protection or anything else, we send those specific queries to those designated lawyers who are experts in their field, but also appreciate that they're advising a charity, and that's really important. As regards what I see being relevant for charities during 2022, here's a few things that are keeping us busy. Definitely there's a lot of work and fallout, if you like, from the Charities Governance Code. For those who adopted the code and said they were fully compliant, they're making sure that they have all of their documents in order, as the regulator is coming calling to check that, so be aware of it. For those who are partially compliant, they're working really hard and we're working with them to fill the gaps, if you like, as they're very keen to be fully compliant ASAP, and they're definitely not waiting until their next annual return. For those who haven't yet started on the journey of adopting the code, they're working really hard too. And if anybody is in that category, please do contact us and we'd be delighted to help. The adoption of the Governance Code has highlighted a number of different things for our charity clients and for the wider charity sector, and work has resulted from that. For instance, one of the very common things we have seen is that their Governance Code is sometimes out of date, not including the clauses that are required by the regulator, and very often just not reflecting how the charity operates on the ground. I'd really recommend to all charities to take that governing instrument off the shelf and make sure it reflects exactly what you do, and that should be a task for 2022 for everybody. Also, as a fallout of the Charities Governance Code compliance, we're doing a lot of governance training, induction for new trainees, and board reviews, all of which are a requirement under the code. As well as the work that is arising as a result of the adoption of the Governance Code, many charities engaged in collaboration with other charities during COVID. There was a real sense of let's get this done together. Now that we're thankfully nearly out of COVID, many of those charities are now either terminating those collaboration ideas or they're formalising them. Some of them are developing into real collaboration together that will work into the future, and others are going as far as mergers. This is something that all charities should be considering and are obliged to consider during 2022. Employee issues are an issue for every organisation in the country, and charities are no different. I definitely see an issue for a number of charities now that the PUP payment is going to be disappearing. And similar to every other organisation, employment concerns like the return to work, hybrid working, demand for wages, and yet increased costs are issues for all of our charity clients and for charities throughout the country. We're definitely seeing an increase in these type of queries and are working with our employment colleagues in relation to them. As well as, if you like, disputes relating to employment issues, we've also seen an increase in disputes between trustees. And that is something that I'd really encourage you to deal with before they become something that cannot be dealt with as easily. We have seen quite a marked increase in the number of concern letters being issued by the charities regulator. A word of advice to a board or to a charity that receives one of these letters: it's really important that you act on it very quickly and that your entire board is notified of the fact of a concern letter. Most concern letters don't progress to anything more serious, but really important, please, that you do act on them. The regulator announced a few changes very recently, one in relation to the annual return form. So when you're making that return online in 2022, please be aware that there are some changes. There's a good guidance note on the regulator's website. The thing to be particularly aware of is the change in relation to the information you have to give on international payments. The regulator also announced recently a proposed new classification of charities. This is something that every charity in the country will have to be aware of, and please keep an eye out for it. So that's a summary of some of the things that are keeping us very busy in our charities team. I know it's going to be a busy year ahead for every charity trustee in the country. The amount of governance and compliance is definitely increasing. This will lead to a better sector, but definitely at the moment, because of the newness of so much of it, it is taking us all our time and effort, and I wish you all every success with it.